Hello everyone. Thanks for coming. My name's Eduardo. I am going to talk here today on behalf of Meta, and in particular I'm going to be talking about a street-level imagery platform called Mapillary, or in other parts of the world you might hear it called Mapillary, but it's the same thing. So, hands up if you've heard about Mapillary before today. Not too many. And keep your hand raised if you've actually contributed to Mapillary. Only a couple. So that's good. It justifies my existence. Hopefully, in the next few days, you'll be walking around the arch and collecting some street-level imagery. And I will have convinced you why that is a useful thing to do. So Mapillary is a street-level imagery platform that is powered by collaboration and computer vision. And I'm going to talk about why that matters, but these two aspects separate Mapillary from a lot of the other alternative platforms where you might contribute street-level imagery. So some facts about Mapillary. There's 2.4 billion images on the platform. These are images that people have uploaded from around the world, as you can see here. Just incredible when you create a platform, seeing how many diverse ways people use it and all the parts of the world that people are contributing in. From as far afield as, we even have people who've done a tour in North Korea and uploaded imagery there, potentially illegal. And definitely illegal somewhere. Antarctica, New York City, like all kinds of places. So 2.4 billion images, that's a lot of map data, 14 million kilometers of coverage. Started in 2013 out of Sweden, towards the end of 2013, and what actually happened was the platform grew a lot, and then in 2020 Meta, the company Meta, purchased Mapillary, and so we joined the Meta team, and there's an awesome maps team at Meta working on a lot of open source tools. Open source and open data is a big part of Meta's strategy to build maps that power our products and services. Jennings and Yunja, who are in the audience, they gave presentations at 11:30 today about some of those tools. But now Mapillary is just one part of Mapillary. Mapillary is one part of Meta's stack to make sure that we're building useful maps that can power all sorts of use cases. So 42 object classes, I'll talk about what that means, but they're just different things that we identify from imagery. 1,500 traffic sign classes, and what I think is really nice to see from Mapillary is that it's powering OpenStreetMap data contributions. And one way to measure that is to look at all the OpenStreetMap edits that have said, hey, I've used Mapillary imagery to improve the map. 351,000 edits have referenced Mapillary in that capacity. So I mentioned before, powered by collaboration and computer vision. The computer vision part is important because you're not just uploading a photo when you contribute to Mapillary, you're uploading a part of the world. We're taking the GPS information from that image, and we're understanding where images are in relation to one another using a technique called structure from motion, and then we're reconstructing that environment in 3D. We're not using LiDAR or any expensive equipment like that. This is just purely from the photos themselves. So particularly when you have good input data, a lot of people have been talking at this conference about when there's good data in, there's generally good data out. Mapillary is no different there. This was probably a much better 360 camera with consistent lighting, but when you have that, you can create a really nice 3D reconstruction. And then we identify objects from within that, things like utility poles and traffic signs. And then in the computer vision circles, there's been a lot of buzz lately about neural radiance fields. This is beyond my pay grade, but the team that works on this is based out of Switzerland, and they're using kind of AI to fill in the gaps so you can basically create a 3D, it's not a 3D reconstruction, the same one that you saw before. This one's actually inferring from neural networks that have been trained what this scene should look like from every angle. Still trying to figure out like the useful ways to apply this in geospatial, but you can imagine for particularly immersive use cases like putting on a VR headset and jumping into that area and experiencing it as if you were there. This is a really powerful way to do that. And so we have a bridge in, I think it's Japantown in LA, and then this is a pyramid in the Yucatan Peninsula. And then the collaboration aspect. So you might have heard of Google Street View. They generally send cars around. They pay people money to go and collect. Mapillary is not about that. It's about anyone being able to go and contribute to the platform. I'm going to give some examples of that. But you upload imagery, and then you can get data out of it. The images CC by SA, the data can be used for commercial use cases. And as a consequence, we've seen all sorts of organizations using it. This is just some of the examples here. But the ecosystem is a really important part of Mapillary. So I want to share some case studies with you. One of my favorites is DC's Department of Public Works. And every year around, I guess, a month from now, 2 months, the leaves start to fall. And this is obviously a headache for keeping drains clear and for making the roads safe. And so the Department of Public Works drives around, and they have these vehicles going around every street. And they thought, why don't we put cameras on these vehicles? And that's exactly what they did. They started out with, I think, dash cams and just the smartphone. And they've driven every street. And this helps them because they often have people asking them, have you covered my street yet? What's going on? When did you come? So they have visual evidence now of that. And they create amazing map data in the process. If you go to DC, almost every street has been covered. And then they have their website, which is hosted where anyone can go and see when was their street last covered, when is it going to be covered next. So I thought this was a really cool use case because the councils often pay organizations a lot of money to go around and collect. In fact, I think one of them's at this conference, a good organization, they do great work. But if you can just utilize vehicles that are already going around every single day and put a camera on it, that's a very good use of taxpayer money. Another example, Fresno County. This is one of the fastest growing counties in California, 4,500 centerline miles. So it's also a lot of roads to maintain. I think it's the largest in California in terms of the number of roads they need to maintain. And this guy here, Ryan Lopez, was given the task of, we need you to keep track of our assets and find a solution to tell us where are our traffic signs, where are the road markings. And he wanted something that allowed him to be able to update it at any given point in time and not have to rely on like a collection once every 4 years. That wasn't good enough for him. He wanted to be able to go out to a new neighborhood, capture that street quickly, using people who are already out in the field, and then be able to view that in an asset, like in a GIS software suite. So that's what he's doing, and you can see there, Fresno as well. Incredible coverage, thanks to him and his team. And they've been using it, as I mentioned, to keep track of traffic signs, and also they've had a lot of problems with fire, getting an understanding of like how vegetation is changing and being able to check that month after month and see, okay, this particular part of Fresno County has a lot of growth that's dry and hasn't been handled yet, and then they can, inspect this remotely. And then another one is Detroit. Now this one is, in terms of like street level imagery, if you guys are interested in playing with good street level imagery data and knowing that it has been well maintained, I recommend zooming into Detroit. They were piloting this many years ago with a GoPro 360 camera. And the idea was that, again, they can send their own workers out and continually collect data. And actually won a grant from, I think, the mayor's office, and it was proven as like, okay, this is a really innovative way to collect data in your city, it's cost effective. And then GM recognized this and gave them a vehicle, which you see here, money to employ 2 full-time drivers, and a fantastic camera, GPS rig, LiDAR, the works. And so the data they're collecting is pretty incredible. But I think why I really like Detroit is their philosophy as a city government of their responsibility to us in terms of open data. When I say us, I mean citizens. I don't live in Detroit, but I'd be happy if I did. And that is to continuously observe and document Detroit's changing physical environment through remote sensing, resulting in freely available foundational data that empowers effective city operations, informed decision-making, awareness, and innovation. It sounds great, but they're actually doing it, which I think is the impressive part. And so you can go and play around with any of this data if you think street-level imagery and derived data, such as traffic signs, would be useful. And the other thing they mentioned is they don't need to do separate trips necessarily. They don't need to purchase all these different types of data sets if they can go around in one go and collect a lot of it. So that's why they've employed 2 full-time drivers. And yeah, very high quality imagery. It's just like you would see from, say, Google Street View if you were using that. And the last quote from them, which I loved, data should be appropriately transparent, available, and usable for employees, partners, and you, the public. So we are going to play a little game that we like to play in Mapillary presentations, and it's called Where or Dove, Donde, Yogiga, Odia, depending on your language. And I want you to guess where this is. And if you guess correct, the first person to guess correct, I will send you a t-shirt. You don't have to carry it home. We'll arrange the logistics, but you'll get a nice little swag package. So does anyone have a guess of where this is in the world?
Hawaii.
I need the most specific answer will win. But you're narrowing it down.
Maui.
Getting closer. Can anyone beat Maui?
That was really impressive.
Yeah.
Going once, going twice. Yeah, actually, I think all 3 of you deserve a prize. It's like teamwork. So come find me afterwards. We'll send you a t-shirt. Yeah, it's the Road to Hana. I think it's like towards the start of the Road to Hana. There'll be more chances later, so stay tuned. So I showed you a few case studies. Hopefully you're like, okay, maybe this is useful for me. You're thinking about contributing. Maybe you want to play around with it. So I do want to share how to contribute to Mapillary. And there's a few steps. Like you're going to be capturing imagery first. You then need to upload it. You then browse it. And then hopefully you want to do something with it after and analyze it and download data. As I mentioned, it's collaborative, and that means that we really want people to be able to capture easily, whether you have a smartphone, a dash cam, 360 cam, whatever it is. And often people contact us and say, hey, can we have a camera? And we do send cameras out on occasion, but the best camera is the one that you have in your pocket. If you're on the middle of nowhere somewhere and you have a smartphone, even if you don't have internet, you can use GPS and you can collect useful data. So that's what we encourage. Obviously, ensuring compliance with local laws, North Korea being an exception, watching your step, making sure you're safe, and that your phone is safe as well. Phones have been lost on bicycles. That's not something we want to condone. And then, so let's say you're using a smartphone. You want to download the Mapillary app, which is very easy to do. You don't need to sign up initially if you don't want to. Get outside, get good GPS. It's obviously easy when you're outside of an urban area. Turn on your location services, notifications, etc. And we have apps on iOS and Android. And then you want to hold the camera level with the horizon, choose an account that you're contributing to. So maybe you want to contribute to your city government account. Maybe you want to contribute to like the company that you work for or your personal account. You can kind of have different organizations that you're part of and upload imagery as a part of that organization. So I'll show you what it looks like. So here is Salesforce Tower. I have opened the Mapillary app. It's super easy. I am just holding the camera level with the horizon. And what the app does is it sees it from the GPS that I'm moving, and every few meters it takes a photo, and that's where you see the flash. It's really simple. All of you would have no trouble using it. And so I'm just walking here, letting the camera do its thing. I could be driving though, I could be riding a bicycle. People have taken it on horseback, on boats. And this is a great way to collect data wherever you're going. And now I've stopped the capture because I was just testing, and now I'm ready to upload. And so that's the next thing is like uploading, and I can just do that when I get connected to Wi-Fi. So now we're uploading. If you're using the app, connect to Wi-Fi, that's it. And then make a coffee, drink a pina colada, do whatever you like to do. It'll work automatically, very simple. But maybe you have a 360 camera or another sort of camera, a dash camera that has MP4 and then GPS embedded within it or a separate file. We have a desktop upload software that you can use for these kind of use cases. Again, easy, drag and drop the files into the desktop uploader. And if it's a supported file, it'll look like this, and you can just hit upload. And for the more tech savvy that maybe have like customizations you want to do, we have a Python suite of scripts as well, where you can maybe say, be very precise about how many photos you take from a video. So sometimes you have a video rather than photos. Maybe you want to take 5 frames because you're driving really fast on the highway, and you want to make sure that you have images at a very tight interval. You can play around with the tools and do that. You can also build your own software and upload to Mapillary using this tool of Python scripts. So round 2, this one's probably even harder, but does anyone have a country? Let's start with a country.
Uganda.
It's not Uganda.
Oh, sorry. That is, that's India.
Wrong continent. I've kept, oh yeah, I forgot an important clue. All my images today are from North America. Sorry, yeah, North America. North America.
I'm too.
No, this one's in Mexico. If anyone wants to shout out a random town, I'll give you another hint. Gringo Gulch, does that mean anything to people?
Not that.
Gringo Gulch. It was a place where a lot of American celebrities used to party in the 60s, apparently.
Go.
No, it's Puerto Vallarta. Okay, maybe that was too hard. I'll have to change these up for the next presentation.
London.
So browsing images. Has anyone been to mapillary.com/app, the website? So you can do that when you get a free moment, but this is what it looks like if you go to our website, I guess, and have app on the URL, and you can just browse imagery from around the world. So if you've contributed your own imagery, like I have here, you'll see on the right-hand side, once you've logged in, like all the sequences that you've uploaded, and you can just zoom into a certain part of the world, filter, view your imagery. And I'm going to talk about what to do with the imagery, but here I'm looking at the status of the image, like has it fully processed yet? And I mentioned structure from motion before, which is where we put it through that 3D generation pipeline. We use, identify like where images are in relation to each other. That takes a bit of compute. So maybe it takes a few hours, maybe it takes a day, depends on how many images are coming in, but you can check the status of that here in the interface. So now you're ready to download data, and there's a few options here. There's a lot of different data types. I've mentioned a few, but you can just have a look here to get a sense of some of the things that you might be able to download. And then in terms of how do you download them, one way would just be to go to that website that I just talked about, and then you can just zoom into an area, choose the data type that you want. Maybe you're only interested in streetlights, and then you can click the button to just download the visible data. So that works well when you're just experimenting or you have a small area, but not so good if you have a large data set that you want to get access to. And that's where I'd recommend using our API and probably the Python SDK, which makes it a lot easier to interact with Mapillary data. And so you can have a script like this where I'm just telling it that this is the bounding box that I'm interested in. So this is the area. I've listed a number of traffic sign types, and we have a full list in our API documentation. And yeah, then I give it a client ID, which is like my developer unique ID, and then I can download data at a larger scale. And you're getting a GeoJSON file for those that care about what you're getting out on the other end. So yeah, this is what it's going to look like. Again, look at our docs if you're interested in this, but you can filter all sorts of different features, and then just we have a specific name for each of them in the API docs. So that's kind of leading to the next thing, which is for developers. I know a lot of the FOSS4G audience are developers or doing developer-like things. So you might be interested in like knowing where Mapillary coverage is, and that's where our vector tiles are useful. You might want to embed a street-level imagery viewer, and that's where we have Mapillary.js, which is a really cool tool to help people explore an area. and you can just use that for free as well and drop it into whatever interface you're building. And I mentioned the Python SDK. Okay. Yes, Canada, good job. The process of elimination.
Montreal.
Bingo, Montreal. So the person that said Canada and Montreal will make sure you get t-shirts. A cold grey day in Montreal. Wow, it was actually quicker than I thought. I thought this would go over time, but we're getting towards the question time. So are there any questions at this stage about Mapillary? Nero. Yes, that's you.
So I noticed I could slide back downloading here and sit download the Dorothy.
Yeah.
Does that mean you're restricted to downloading data and that new imagery? See,
No, you can download everyone's data. Yeah.
the second.
Yeah, you might as well take the second. Yeah.
And I went to Stork years ago, actually worse than Mapillary than the Getty on project about connecting the images of Sun Street. And wondering the disparity in the back plots.
Did you say Sunset Boulevard, was it?
Yeah, the Sunset Strip.
Was this like Ed? Yeah.
Charles themselves, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not, yeah.
Yeah, we haven't gone out of our way, but we would encourage experimentation. There was a guy in Denmark who was, he had historical photos of like castles in Denmark from I think it was the 1800s, and so he geolocated them. And the funny thing is the structure from motion works because the castle still looks the same all these years later. So yeah, that's a really cool use case. And then Mapillary does have date filters, so we could probably see now what the oldest stuff that we have is. So maybe I could put an end date. What if I could type this out? But yeah, you can do that. I think just not many people have, but I would encourage it. And then we've had people. Did anyone contribute to Panoramio back in the day? Yeah, only one. That was a really cool project of like photography and travel enthusiasts from around the world uploading photos of different places. Some of them came across to Mapillary and uploaded photos that they'd taken, in the 80s and 90s. There was another question at the back.
Yeah, so like how does and what about you see or yes, smooth. I mean, are there other some of these cases specifically with like object recognition or like maybe music knowledge time maybe like a street asset inventory?
Yeah, there are many. We have, if you go to mapillary.com/showcase, we have a bunch. Yeah, one cool one that comes to mind was the World Bank wanted to know where, I guess, access to like mobile connectivity in different parts of Latin America, and they came up with this idea of like looking at where logos for the telecom companies were. And so Mapillary, like we trained our model to detect, I think Movistar was one of the companies, and then you could see which towns had a shop that they could go to get these SIM cards. So that's like one random example, but there's a whole bunch of examples listed here of, another one is Development Seed, which is a really impressive geospatial shop that focuses on humanitarian examples, and they were looking at building types and how susceptible they are to earthquakes by trying to understand what material the building is made out of, how many stories is it, and correlating that with data in OSM and the building footprint and kind of matching up the street level image with the 2D data sets. Yep, sir, at the back.
I was looking at Vermont and saw the state elections of low there's
Yeah.
where that state just have this street in there involving privacy.
Yeah.
Is that very common for organizations to take much more than very stock for that useful story?
Yeah, so we could probably do a better job with this. So what he's talking about is in the state of Vermont, they have uploaded the entire state. and they do road surveys, and they've uploaded like different angles, but one of those angles is just
You're looking.
this. Like, this is not super helpful for anyone but Vermont. But it's the thought that counts, right? It's the spirit of open data. So we could do a better job, like filtering that out. I think is like the point that you're making, to make sure that you don't have that you can actually find what you're looking for.
Similar to this other sentence.
Yeah, there are. They've definitely. We do get some bad data sometimes, but often what we find is bad data can be better than no data a lot of the time. Like a grainy image that's hard to see, like, is still better than not having an image in that location.
So to be fair, that type of imagery is really useful as some other stone visualizations, but also, is there a way to look this that there?
Yeah, we take. Yeah, so we have the compass angle from the device. So most devices, like the smartphone or the different types of cameras, will have the compass angle. But then when we do that 3D reconstruction, we also have a computed compass angle where we think from the 3D reconstruction that you're looking in this direction, and you can kind of choose whichever one you think is more accurate.
How are you getting equivalent or data off the or anything?
Not really, no. Yeah.
So you read in their chapter, I love and show it. She's used more hours or this. It's the step into your but to strictly secure the map.
Yeah, we take everything. Yeah, like if you upload it, it'll be there in a few days. Obviously, don't, like, if you don't want your house shown, don't upload it. But it would be. Yeah, there's no private imagery here. That's an important thing to call out. We just encourage everything to be public. So if you want a private solution, Mapillary is not the solution. And I think we're getting to time, but maybe 2 more questions. Yeah.
Very briefly, so for example, this image, there are several street signs. For a given image, you use that, and this image has all of the streets. You go more detail and say this had this big bubbles of the street signs, and then there's bigger relationships. Where you would meet that?
Yeah, so in our API docs, you'll see that there's 2 types of map data. So for some of them, we tell you in this image, we detected X, Y, Z. But then the most useful thing is what we call map features, and that's where we actually estimate the location of the object and give you the lat and long of that object in 3D space as we think it is. It could be inaccurate, it could be accurate. But you can get, like, for this image, how many things were detected, if that's your question. Yep. Cool, and maybe one more and then we should wrap up if there is another one. Yep, just here.
There's something that, like, Mapillary is not self-hosted, but you can self-host it.
You can't self-host it, no.
It's not, is it still sourced on or?
A lot of it, like, so if you're talking about the infrastructure, like some of the infrastructure is open source. The data itself is CC by SA. But a lot of, like, we host it on Facebook servers, if you're wondering where it's actually hosted, the imagery. Thanks everyone for coming. I'll be around if you have any further questions. Thank you.